Maxi Jazz, welcome to Vinyl.
Thank you.
It's lovely to be here in London. Thank you for inviting us into your
problem.
space. So we're going to play 4 records.
Yes, indeed.
And I think we just go straight in with records as in like, what makes vinyl important to you, Max? So how does vinyl make you feel?
It's hard to define, really. It's all part of that, hearing a great record, say, on the radio. And then as a young boy, you know, you get your pennies together and you head off down the record shop and here's all of these jewels sat around you. And you can't afford all of them, obviously, but you're definitely going to get the one you've come for. And you're standing there, you used to have booths where you could sort of stand and listen to records, and it was everybody just flipping through stuff. It was just a really beautiful vibe. And then you'd go and buy your tunes. And as you came out of the record shop, obviously they put it in a bag, say, you know, graphite records or whatever. And as soon as you pass the first bin, you take the bag and you chuck it in the bin so everybody can see what you bought. And just how cool you are, right? Yeah. And then there was the getting home. There was the bus ride where you're just aching with anticipation to get it on your set and turn it up nice and loud and have your dad go, Maxwell! And take it out of the sleeve, put it on. It's all a ritual. And excuse the croaky voice, bit of a chest infection. It's all a bit of a ritual. And then to just hear it and just lie back on your bed knowing that that's mine now forever. It's not the same with a CD. It's MP3s. What do you own? You know what I mean? What's yours? Where's the magic? I mean, back in the day, you had to leave the house to get music. That indicates, you know, passion rather than which is fine. It's okay. I don't mind. Technology is about convenience. It's not about making anything better per se, but it is about making things easier, which is fine. But I loved the 109 bus ride up to Croydon, down Station Road, past the guitar shop, into the music shop, and just flipping through things, thinking, oh yeah, I'll come back for that one.
Now let's get some music on. How did you find picking 4 records?
It wasn't that hard.
Nice.
Oddly enough, because these are sort of records that informed me, if you like, as a music lover and latterly as a musician. And oddly enough, the first 3, my mum bought. My mum loved music, so did my dad, but we didn't get much reggae played in the house. Mum was into jazz. She loved Ella. She loved Sarah Vaughan. She had a Stan Getz record that I stole off her, but I couldn't find her, so I brought that one too. And she loved jazz, and she loved film music. And Sunday mornings was her time, right? Because she'd get up really early. Sunday morning, everybody lies in, right? But my mum would get up to start the dinner because big old roast dinner and everything had to be done. And we had gramophones back then, so we called them the gram. And mum would stick something on the gram. Loud, the whole house shook. And it would be anything from the Nutcracker Suite by Tchaikovsky to the Sound of Music soundtrack to Duke Ellington, and you didn't know what it was going to be, but it was nice because you kind of knew you were in your bed, and I never minded music being played loud. That's the great thing about living in Jamaica, actually. Music is not looked upon as music pollution. Do what you like. Sunday night, Monday night, doesn't matter. Nobody cares. And yeah, you just turn over with a sort of half smile thinking, oh, mum's happy. And yeah, but what she did was she used to go to New York every now and then to visit relatives and to get the hell away from us. And she would always bring records back. Amazing. And I don't know why she brought these particular records back, because they weren't necessarily in her groove, but they suited me no end. Look, here's one. Let me see, where's the track I'm looking for? Okay, here we go. Now this is an album from '73 called The Soul of Jamaica, and it's a compilation album from off our island of reggae tunes. Various. It's got Funky Kingston on it from Toots. The first Bob Marley tune I ever heard, which is Concrete Jungle, is on here. There's a fabulous tune called This Is Reggae Music by Zap Pow. I'm torn between playing that one and UFO by the Harry J All-Stars, but I think it's going to have to be UFO. Where are we here? Here we go. Can I just put that
Yeah,
in?
put it wherever. I just love the ritual of playing records.
Isn't it? To this day. Can't see the line. Oh. Don't do that while you're DJing. Used to play this all the time. What a tune.
What a first choice. So, who was that?
So that was Harry J and the All-Stars. Tune was called UFO.
Amazing. What comes to your mind when you hear that, Max?
Oh, my front room. Or my mum's front room, I should say.
What can you see? What can you feel?
The mustard carpet, the bright red couch. Now, luckily we weren't the type to put plastic over everything, but you absolutely weren't allowed in the front room without parental permission.
Okay, shoes off?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, yep.
And this is another record that she brought back from the first three of these tunes that my mum brought back from New York. And this is an Otis Redding compilation record. And the track I'm going to play is called You Made a Man Out of Me. And I tell you what, the thing is so funky. It kind of taught me about funk, but in a way that there's a riff, boom, and it's just this late drop, really super late, and they do it the same every single time. It's unbelievable. You couldn't program it in a million years. It's just this thing that musicians have when they're all playing together and they get the vibe. And the drop is just so late, but it's exquisite. It's just... Anyway, I'll play it. You see what I mean?
Straight.
Here we go. You hear that?
Man wanna just change his mind, girl. Everything I do, baby, just right on time, girl. You set me through, baby, yes, whole lot of changes, and I love you for it, honey. This I'll remain, girl, 'cause you made a big old man, girl, out of me, baby, yeah, big old man. You made out of me. You made me do the things, girl. You love me, baby, and you showed me what to do, baby. I can't explain, baby, what you did for me now, but I love you for it, and I'll never forget you now, 'cause you made a big old man, girl, out of me, baby. You made a big old man. You made a big old man out of me, baby. I'm a sweet little man, baby. That's what you want me to be. You gave me everything. You just taught me everything I know, and I love you for it, darling. I'll never let you go, baby, 'cause you made a great big man out of me, baby. Big old man. You made out of me, big old man. You made out of me, loving man. You made out of me, sweet little man. Baby, what you did for me, showed me everything. Baby, when you just give me everything, Lord, you just love me when you wanted to be loved. You made a great big man.
It's got to have that funk.
I like feeling. So, what was that record?
It's called You Made a Man Out of Me
Otis.
by Otis Redding, yeah.
Amazing. Okay, so during that, we were having a quick chat sort of about sampling.
Yeah.
Now, what made you start taking the records that you were buying and listening to and then start messing around them and making beats and
Well,
things? Was
because-
there a kind of moment where it kicked in?
When
for you?
hip hop first came out, I mean, we used to listen to electro a lot. And, you know, the early incarnation of hip hop, was drum machines and keyboards and instruments. I can't remember the first sampled record that I heard, but I was in a little sound system from 1984. And suddenly, I'm pretty sure it was I Know You Got Soul by Eric B. and Rakim that triggered everybody into sampling finding old James Brown records, thinking, nice shit, it's funky. And sampling old James Brown records. So, of course, now these records are out there. If you didn't have those loops already, or those tracks already, then you'd have to go out there and find them. Rare Groove started right there and then. Suddenly albums that were going for $3.99 are suddenly 80 quid, you know. But looking for these loops, and also how we used to do it back then, I say we, but how hip-hop used to be back then was a bit like graffiti art. You'll see a piece on the wall, and you'll have to stare at it for 2 or 3 minutes before you understand what it says, because they've done their best to disguise it, but disguise it beautifully. And that's what they did they'd find a James Brown bass line that you knew like the back of your hand, and they'd put some old jazz sample with it and some piece of old Petula Clark or whatever, so that it completely obscured your reference points for that bass line, but it was still just as funky. And you're thinking, I know this from somewhere. What is that track? And so that was what we loved doing. I loved doing in particular was just finding something really funky, and rather than just leaving it there, you know, a la Puff Daddy, so everybody knew right what that was. But just,
There's your 4 bars.
Yeah,
Repeat.
hide it, you know, hide it. And so you've got this really amazing track that sounds great, with a really well-known loop in it, but you've disguised it, so people will be going, what is it about this record that I like so much? So that for me, that was the art, if you like, of sampling and looping. And I had this mate called Rekka, we used to call him, Michael. And he was brilliant at making beats, really, really good. But he's a really, really shy guy. And he'd come to my house and he'd say, "All right, Max." So I thought I'd come and play you my new beats. And I said, "Yeah, go on, stick the cassette in." He'd stick the cassette in. And he'd have made these 2 tracks. And I'm thinking, God, they're fantastic, but it used to really annoy me.
Oh no, why?
Rivalry.
Oh, because you hadn't made it.
Yeah, because I just felt they were better than what I was doing. So we'd sit down and we'd smoke and we'd drink and I'd listen to his tracks and I'd tell him how brilliant they were, because they were. And as soon as he left, slam the door, go, right, and go straight to my machinery, switch everything on, because I've now got to make something at least as good as that, right? So I would work really hard for a few weeks on some tracks, maybe 1 or 2, and then once I got something that I know, I think this is dope, I go around to the records and I say, "Yeah, Rekka, got a couple of tunes to play, come make we sit down." And I'd play the tunes, and he told me like years later, he used to do the same thing.
And then he'd be like, "Oh, Max has come with this."
He's taught me.
Where'd you get that from?
Exactly. So he would then slam the door and go, right. So, we'd bring the best out of each other. But it was, I don't know, about 2 or 3 years of, especially in the summertime when you could walk from his house to mine. He didn't live far. And, that kind of rivalry, it really brings the best out of you, just because you're thinking, I can't let him get away with come in my yard and play me tunes that's better than mine. How you mean?
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you, Rekka.
But how did you kind of like find the bits of the records? Were you kind of, as you're listening to records, making a list of like, I could sample that, or are you after hearing what has been sampled and then trying to chase?
No, I was always trying to look for new stuff, always. And it's, it was some of the most boring hours I ever spent. When you buy an album for 25 quid because there's 1 track on there, nothing else can be used. Listen to all the tracks. There might be a snare drum sound there that's dope. There might be a little trumpet piece of a solo that you go, "Oh, listen to that. I can use that. Look, take that." So you have to listen to just everything. And I spent 3 months just as I got up out of bed, put records on and sit there and listen and eventually go like that. But you'd always find stuff that was, I'd always look for stuff that was a bit off the wall, and then try and put that with stuff that was more regular. But yeah, it was worth every minute of the hanging out, being bored, because when you found something, it was just like, oh yes, wait till I take this round to Rekka.
And have you got like a tactic for crate digging? Do you still do it, or sort of when you were really searching for samples? Have you got a
honestly,
strategy?
No, not really. I haven't. But the crate digging that I used to do that was really, fulfilling, was, as a sound, there was 5 of us, and we kept all of the records and equipment around at John's house in Loughborough Junction. John's flat, I should say. And so there's massive piles and piles of records on the floor. And those mornings you wake up and you don't feel so good, and you go halfway through the morning and you can't shake it off? I would say, right. And I would get myself together, put a blank TDK D90 in my back pocket, walk the 15 minutes round to John's house. We all had keys, so I'd let myself in. "John, you all right?" Yeah, Maxi, cool. And then walk into the sound system room, the front room, and just start going through the records and think, "Oh, yeah, that one for you, that's got to go on there." And you're looking basically for tracks to play, to put on your tape, so you can put it on your Walkman and feel absolutely brilliant walking home. And that was the thing. And by the time you'd got to the 3rd record that you decided you were going to play, you're already in a good mood. The blues is long gone. And then You'd get all of your tracks together, make a little mixtape, 45 minutes. Say, nice one, John, later. You say, all right, boss. And then walk back with your music playing and thinking, life is brilliant. You know, so that's what a lot of my crate digging was just to cheer myself up.
And it works.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
every time, without fail.
Is there anything else that is almost guaranteed?
Well, I heard
to lift that.
No, I heard that in terms of the neurons in the brain, that nothing else a human being can do can take you where music takes you. There is nothing else you can do that takes you where music takes you. And I thought, that makes sense, you know.
Yeah, 100%. Powerful stuff.
Yeah.
Let's hear some.
Okay.
Third records.
Another one that my ma brought in. And this is a blues record. It's called the Rhythm and Blues All Stars. It's on Pi Golden Guinea. Jesus, when did this come out? It doesn't say. Let's have a look. See if it's on here. 1960. And this album has got blues artists, Sonny Boy Williamson, Little Walter, Elmore James, Lowell Fulson, Jimmy Witherspoon, Buddy Guy, Howlin' Wolf, Smokestack Lightning, Howlin' Wolf, Bo Diddley, Hooker, Memphis Slim. I was hooked on this record, hooked. And I was in a bit of a stress, wondering which one to play, which track to play off of this amazing record. And I decided on this Jimmy Witherspoon track. Hold on, which is 1, 2, 3 from the end. And it's called It Ain't No Secret What My Baby Can Do. Now it's the blues, right? It's supposed to be like, you know, melancholy, mournful. This is the happiest blues record I ever heard. It's joyful. There's a guy in the background going, oh, just amazing. So without further ado, let me stick this on, because I actually haven't listened to this for a long time. Might be a little quiet, yeah.
Well, it ain't no secret, oh man, what my baby can do. Yeah, man, what she done for me. Yeah, well, she can do for you. She can talk sweet talk, drive me wild, and make me feel good. Way down inside, what she's putting down, my heart can't take. In the middle of the night, well, I shiver and shake. I beg my baby for mercy, please. This real gone love, well, it's killing me. Well, it ain't no secret what my baby can do. What she done for me, she better not do for you. She can talk sweet talk that drives me wild, make me feel good, way down inside. She make me walk through fire. She make me tell a lie. She make me be real true for the things she can do. She make me work all day, and my work seem like play. She make me fuss and fight, boy, and love me day and night. Well, it ain't no secret what my baby can do, what she done for me. Well, she can do for you. She can talk sweet talk, drive me wild, and make me feel good, way down inside.
Most of the Beatles tracks were done on 4-track, but I'm pretty sure this would have been done on 2.
Basically, go.
Yeah. Probably put the rhythm section down, and then do the vocals on the 2, and do the vocals on the 2 tracks. And maybe if they wanted to put a solo, bounce that down to track 1. So you got track 2 now for the saxo. But I would have said they would have done the whole thing one time.
Well,
every last drop. Do you remember All Night Long by Lionel Richie?
Yeah.
There is a superb little brass piece at the end of that, right at the end. Little trumpet, da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da. And every time they played it on the radio, I'd like, please don't talk, please don't talk. And every time they would talk and leave it out. So I thought, I have to go and buy the record because this is killing me. Because the one time I heard it, all the way through, and I heard that little trumpet part. Again, I don't know if that's the reason why you gravitate towards sampling, but I always heard those little bits. That were like, oh, listen to that bit. Listen to this bit coming up here with the drummer just stops. You know, that's what makes a great record for me, is those little moments.
And did you take that sort of attitude when you were on the radio?
Oh, absolutely,
radio
yeah.
bits.
No, I tell you what.
Did you talk at all?
No, I didn't. I used to love talking.
Records, and that's it.
No, I used to love talking, but I would take the John Peel lessons to heart and never speak over the record. And I used to have this midnight to 3 show on LWR. And LWR is a dirty word in a lot of pirate radio, but I didn't know. Yeah. I was just doing my thing. Anyway, they used to hire somebody's back bedroom in flats overlooking, well, in Peckham, well, not Peckham, Lordship Lane up there is quite high. Mm. And so they would hire somebody's back bedroom. Now I had a midnight to 3 show, meaning that when I got there, the whole family's asleep. So you can't be blasting your music through the speakers and enjoying yourself like that. Everything had to be done on headphones. And plus you had to be quite quiet on the mic. You couldn't be yelling and screaming, which I never thought was a good idea for radio anyway. That's what you do on a sound when you're partying, but on a Saturday night. But radio, I like that conversational tone that Peely had. So what would happen, I would turn up and the other DJ would sign off and I'd sit down in the chair. I got my 2 decks there, my mixer, my records down here, 2 cans of Guinness, my weed, and a bunch of jingles, cassette tape jingles that we had to play like every 15 minutes, half an hour or so. But I learned quickly that Zach, who ran the station, he never listened to my show for more than 45 minutes. So the first half an hour I played the jingles.
Did the rules.
Yeah, I do all the stuff. Then not again until 3. Just pure music. And those were amazing days. And what I used to do, given that everything was kind of in my head like this, I used to imagine this tall, leggy girl wearing just a T-shirt with her back to me, doing the ironing. And over here was a big pile of clothes, and over here was a radio with my voice coming out of it. And I would try all night to make her ass move. And that was it. I was in my own little fantasy world playing tunes that I hoped she liked, you know. Those are some of the most pleasurable times I've ever had musically, was doing those radio shows, because you were left alone to do pretty much what you liked. And so it meant that you'd go again through your records and go, oh, that's going to play Wednesday night for sure. And you know, it
kind of gives you a little bit more freedom as well than a DJ set. I mean, within DJ sets you can move things around, but you're kind of there to make people dance. Whereas on the radio you can...
Yeah, a DJ set, not to sound cynical, but you could take the same 30 records out every time you go out, and people would be lauding you as the god of all DJs. Because what are you doing? You're taking out those records that you know everybody loves, and you play them one after the other. And people go, wow, he's brilliant. Now, this is going to sound rough, but I believe it to be true. I think that a lot of people who go out, they're not really into music. They're not. Because if and when the DJ puts on a brand new tune that nobody's heard before, the very few people who are into music go, oi, Dave, do you know this tune? He'll go, no. Mark, you know this tune? He'll go, no. Right, go and ask the DJ what it is then. Everybody else will be going, oh, don't know this one. Do you want a drink? And Scarpa. 6 weeks later, when they've been hearing it on the radio every day, they'll be asking the DJ for it. So this is what I mean. It's like if new music turns up and it's great, your first thing is, wow, what's that? Whereas the majority of people will be like, oh, don't know this one. Let's go and have a chat by the bar. So that's one of the reasons why musicians, I think, have to pay their dues. It means you have to be out there struggling long enough for people to get a whiff of you, get a wind of who you are and what your music is. And then you start making a living at it. Because you have to convince people who aren't really into music that your music, that necessarily sounds different from his and his and his and hers, because it's yours, you know, you have to spend time getting people into that. And it's not easy.
Huge amount of graft.
Yeah.
I mean,
Massive.
huge amount.
Massive.
When was like the crossover when you then started sort of adding lyrics, rapping on top of, and sort of speech, and you were getting involved in your beats?
Because of the DJing on the pirate radio station, I was already in a sound, and the reason that I had gone onto the radio was so that we could, you know, publicise and promote our gigs and get people coming down, and that worked. Now, I loved my rap music, and on days when I didn't really have much to do, you know, I just write this cheeky little rap lyric just for parties. And if we ever had a crowd that was drunk enough, then I'd drop the rhyme over whatever record was playing, and people would go for it. And I thought, wow, this is really fun. And then, yeah, later on, I graduated to a hip-hop show, and I was playing a lot of 2 hours of hip-hop on a Thursday night. And I was thinking, I've got all of the loops that this producer, American producer, used to make this record, but if I'd been asked to make it, I'd have put that over there, this here, that here, and I left that one out completely. And therefore, I started doing pause mixing.
What's pause mixing?
Okay. So you've got your cassette player wired up to your decks to record, and you've got the drums, a bar or 2 bars of the drums you want to use, and 2 bars of the bass line you want to use on separate decks, and your big toe on the pause button of your tape recorder. And you go 1, 2, 3, 4. Let them both run, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. Hit the pause button again, wind it back. 1, 2, 3, 4. Boom. And, you know, you could make a track. I used to make jingles for my radio show in LWI, and people said to me, other DJs, oh, I really like your DJs, your jingles, will you make me one? And I said, yeah, 25 quid, no problem. And so I would make a little bit of small change on the side, making jingles for other people. And they all assumed that I had this studio in my house, and I didn't. So that's when I started putting beats together, basically was for these jingles. And then thinking, well, why not try and make a track? So I started making beats. You know, you fall into it and suddenly you become consumed by it.
Easy.
So I knew some guys who were rappers, you know. Yeah, Big Up Daddy Speedo, Flyboy D, and a whole host of others. And they'd be around my house like regular, and I'd be playing them my new beat. They'd be, oh, Maxi, that's dope. So I'd be like, right, here's a cassette copy of it. Go ahead and write some lyrics and let's, you know, sell it, try and make some money or something. And they'd come back, they were like 19 and 20 and got their girlfriend pregnant or got in trouble with the law, which we all did from time to time. Bottom line, long story short, is no lyrics. You know, 3 months later, no lyrics. So I thought, well, if you don't start writing your own, son, you're going to be sitting on your backside here in your house on your own for time. So that's when I started writing the lyrics as well. And yeah, I put my back into it, I don't mind telling you. And then over a period of time, you know, 3 years probably, suddenly I'm getting asked to do work, but not making beats but for lyrics and for rapping, which I found really strange, because I never really considered myself a rapper. Because, I mean, I can't do that fast stuff. You know, my toasting is kind of weak, but, you know, I know how to put words together, you know,
100%.
anyway. So that basically was that. I never really looked back from there.
Yeah.
It was kind of, you know, certain things you fall into. There was a guy came from France. His name was Max too. He worked for a French record company. This was 1990. I remember it because 1992 was going to be the birth of the European. We were going to join the European Union. And this guy had persuaded this French record company to give him money to come to England to make a rap record about, you know, about joining the European Union and how great it all was. So found out all this out latterly, of course, but he comes to England and he bunks in with his good friend Tom, who lived in Fulham. And he said, look, Tom, I've got this money to make a rap record. How do I go about it? And Tom goes, well, I don't know. I guess the first thing you're going to need is a scratch DJ. How do I get one of them, he says. He says, well, I'll tell you what, there's a record shop just round the corner from here. Tomorrow morning we'll go in and ask. Now, the record shop they went to happened to be run by Jazzy M, a house music DJ who used to take over from me on LWR on a Thursday night at 9 o'clock. So and he knew about, I used to scratch and mix and stuff. And so when they asked him, oh, do I know any scratch DJs? He says, I know exactly who you need. Next thing you know, I get a phone call from this guy, Max, who wants to know if I'll do any scratching on his record. I invite him over. And I listen to his beat. It's a bit dry, but this is money. 50 quid, do you mind? And I got like a few scratches out, various records. And he said, oh, yeah, I like that one. Oh, not that one, not that one. Yeah, I like that one. So eventually I had 10 records. And I was going to meet him in the studio the following night, which I did. And so suddenly I'm in the studio. I don't know if it was the first time I was in a really good studio, but it was really impressive. And I put my scratches on this beat. And the more I listened to it, the more I thought, oh wait, this beat is really dry. The more I listen to it, the drier it gets. Yeah. I must have something in amongst these 10. Oh, look. And I find a record with a little loop on it, and I say to the engineer, yeah, loop this up and stick it underneath the track for me. And so he did, and suddenly the track is boosted up like 4 or 5 notches, and I'm thinking, try this little loop as well in there, every 4 bars. And all of a sudden, this track is suddenly turning into something. So now we're losing his beat, and I'm basically putting this whole thing together.
So it's your loops and your scratches so
yeah,
far.
Yeah. And by 3:30 in the morning, we got a funky-ass track going on. And he had said Max had put a very, very dry rap on the tune. And he's looking at me, it's 3:30, 4 in the morning, saying, can you rap? I said, well, you know, if I'm at a party and the crowd's drunk enough, he said, get in the booth. So I got in the booth, and all I had was my little party raps that I'd written. So I dropped one on the top of this beat. And I came out, and everybody was smiling, and hit the play start button. And I listened to it very critically, because, you know, I'm my own worst critic. And I thought, do you know what, Maxi, that's not bad. So I left with my 50 quid in my back pocket, which I'd been given for scratching, but basically I'd taken this whole tune and produced it, essentially. But also certain in the knowledge that I could A, write and B, rap. So therefore, I didn't have to wait on anybody. I could do this whole thing myself if I needed to, and I did need to. So, and again, that was a phone call out of the clear blue sky. Now, I don't believe in luck or coincidence. I believe if you put the work in, it's like the universe goes, yeah, he's a trier. Yeah, son, run with that. You know, I'm not a Christian, but that old saying, what is it? the Lord helps him who helps himself. It's absolutely true. And like I said, I was addicted to vinyl, addicted to music. Here comes hip hop, where you're messing around with vinyl to make new music. Heaven sent.
Yeah.
This might have been made just for me. And I know I wasn't the only person who felt like that. So that was, the beginning of my life, if you like. And it's been going on apace ever since. Now, this next record, this is the last one. And I have to say that there are a couple here who didn't make it that were very seminal in my growth, if you like. One was My Melody by Eric B. and Rakim. It's on the B-side of Eric B's For President. And Rakim was a revelation. Because before Rakim, everybody was rapping like, from alarm to 11, 11 to alarm. He cuts the beat in half the time and yelling quite a bit. And here comes Rakim with this totally slow, conversational, groovy style. And a wordsmith, playing with words as well. Oh, my God. When I heard My Melody, I nearly wet myself. I thought, this is fantastic. But the killer for me was Straight Out the Jungle by the Jungle Brothers. I bought that album, and the first track, because I always knew I couldn't do the battle rhymes that I used to love. So LL Cool J used to be my favourite rapper back then. Yeah. But I knew I couldn't be like him. But Africa Baby Bambaata's first rhyme, first track, entertain a man from the motherland. You see, they call me a star, but that's not what I am. I'm a jungle brother, a true blue brother, and I've been to many places you never discover. Step to my side, suckers run and hide. Africa's in the house, you get petrified. You want to know why? I'll tell you why. Because they can't stand the sight of the jungle lie. And it just carried on. I thought, I can do that. I can do that. That's brilliant, but I can do that. So that was like, okay, I'm going all in on this. And so, yeah, if there'd have been space for those two, but these are I'm talking about my formative records. All of these records that I've played thus far taught me about music. Those two did too, but these more so. And this record, this last one, is by a rock artist called Todd Rundgren.
Okay.
And I was in a band at that time. This was in the early 70s. I was at school, and I was in one of the school bands. And the guitar player from the band said, you have to listen to this record by Todd Rundgren. It's a double album full of great songs, and he played every instrument himself. And every vocal is everything. He did it all himself. So I bought this record and I fell in love with it. I didn't play anything else for 9 months.
Max, that's serious.
Nothing.
That's very serious.
I studied this record. I didn't just listen to it. Because I would listen to it all the way through, all four sides, then put it on again. And the first time I listened to it, I'd listen to just the bass. Then the second time I'd listen to just the drums. Then I'd listen to the backing vocals. Now, if you're listening to a band that's got backing singers, you don't really pay that much attention to the backing vocals. But because you know this guy's in there on his own, suddenly the backing vocals that just he is doing become important. And I realized that great backing vocals are the difference between a good record and an unforgettable record. There are any amount of tracks that I could play from this record because they are all brilliant. The album's called Something Anything, 1972, Todd Rundgren. But I'll play the one that everybody knows. Hopefully it doesn't have a big old scratch in the middle.
Last night I was feeling something wasn't right. 'cause you're different girl from all the rest. In my eyes, and I ran out before, but I won't do it anymore. Can't you see the light in my
This was my favourite. Came out as a single 2 or 3 times when I was a kid. And it was my favourite record. I used to listen to the radio all day long, just waiting to hear it. And I remember one time, it was a Saturday afternoon, and my mum had called me to run round to the shops to get some cigarettes for her. So I said, all right, Mum, took the money, ran round to the corner shop, bought the cigarettes, ran back again, gave her the change and the fags, ran upstairs to hear the dying embers of this tune. I'd just missed it.
Oh my God.
I was so gutted that I never went anywhere else again without my radio that wasn't school. I took the dog for a walk, radio. Went for a bath, radio. Everywhere I went, I took the radio with me because I didn't want to miss anything classic or beautiful. In fact, one day I had the said Dancetti under my arm, big old area, remember them? And I was walking the dog, and the dog was all 50 yards up doing her doggy thing, Sheba, bless her.
Yeah.
And the DJ says, can't remember who it was, he says, okay, now we're going to run the news, and straight after the news we're going to play Jimi Hendrix's new single. Well, now, Hey Joe killed me. I was like, wait a minute, you can't write songs about killing your wife? It was just like, that was the most powerful record I'd heard ever at that time. And so I listened to the news, dogs running, I'm walking down the road, and suddenly, and I'm staring at my radio like, what's this? And next thing you know, I'm sat down on somebody's front wall, just staring at the radio, my head moving, and my brain just scrambled. I'm thinking, what on earth am I listening to? It was just the most powerful. And next thing you know, here's the dog looking up at me like, Max, you all right?
Yeah. And you were like, no, I'm in heaven.
I was transfixed. I was transfixed by it. I just thought, wow, what the hell? That people can make stuff like this. It just was so inspiring. And you just think, one of these days, one of these fine days, one of my tunes is going to be coming out of the radio, and hopefully somebody's going to go, hold on a minute, what's this? You know?
And how do you feel about that now? Because 25 years on from the biggest dance record ever with Insomnia and a load of the things you did.
How do I feel?
How do you feel now when that comes out the radio then?
Well, I feel grateful. I feel grateful for the upbringing I had. I feel grateful for my age in a way, because I was young enough back then to catch all of that music, all of that early stuff that led to a lot of what's current now. I mean, house music and dance music. I was into disco and 80s funk bands, club funk bands like Clear and Cameo, and oh man, that stuff was just awesome. So I know I always used to rib Sister Bliss about, you know, while you were listening to bloody Duran Duran, I was listening to this, you know. And the idea that, you know, we basically boxed off Insomnia. It was just like a B-side. Rollo was compiling the record on a Sunday. We'd finished Reverence. And he thinks out of the box sometimes, Rollo, and he's thinking, well, if I wasn't making a CD, if I was making a vinyl album, it would have 2 sides. And I would want a dance track on both sides. We only had Salva Maya at that time. So he rang up Blissy and said, look, meet me in the studio tomorrow. We need another dance track for the album. And so they put the music together for Insomnia in a day. And these are people who would put a track together, get Blissy to DJ it, come back, say, no, it needs a tweak,
Sounds
DJ
like
it
Sasha.
again, right? tweak it again. But in one session, they got the music together, and then they rang me Monday night, Rollo, and said, Maxi, we put another house music track together, and we're going to call it Insomnia because Bliss is having trouble getting Kip. Do you think you can write any lyrics for that? I said, no problem, I'll see you tomorrow evening. I put the phone down and I spent about 15 minutes getting some basic ideas down. Then I went to the studio the next day, spent 20 minutes finishing off the rap, another 20 minutes in the booth putting it down, and then I went home. And that was that. So, yeah, then suddenly it's a hit, and you're thinking, wow. But the real shocker is the following year, and the year after that, and the year after that, and the year after that, until 20 years have passed and people are still freaking out to the said tune. You're like, what?
Yeah.
And it was a B-side. It was the living B-side. Let's throw one together and put it on the album. And that was Insomnia. So I feel privileged. I feel, people say blessed a lot, but I do. I feel blessed with that record. And people ask me, don't you get tired of playing it or hearing it? And I know. Number one, I never get sick of seeing people enjoy themselves. And plus, I'm eternally grateful to that track. Yeah. I could never be anything else. So even though now, you know, the music I'm making is more like that. You know, I've got my eTypeboys band. We make guitar music. We had some experiences on the road as a band that are absolutely unforgettable. You know, Glastonbury being one of them. There was an amazing Belgian festival called Rock Vector. They loved us in Belgium, so the roof used to come off. 100,000 people there. And like a festival in Budapest called Ziget. Oh, the list is endless. Oh, I've got to tell you about Das Festival in Karlsruhe in Germany. It's a free festival that all of the big companies, like Mercedes-Benz, the telephone company, etc., they all put money together and they hire this park and they hire the musicians and all the crew and they put on a free festival for the whole town. And there's like 80,000 people there. And the park is beautiful. And we had one of the first time we went there, we were playing as the sun went down, which is about the best time you can play. And you had this huge amount of space here full of people and then these two hills that rose up like that, covered in people. So when you were going like this to get people, you could see hands, you could see little matchsticks moving on the tops of the hills. And the vibe was just incredible. It's like when people are digging you and your music to that extent and screaming and roaring, they're sending you energy. And that's how you feel it, as energy. So like 2/3, 3/4 of the way through the gig, when you should be flagging, you should be dropping now. You've got the strength of a platoon of soldiers, and your first instinct is to just give it back. Just give it back, just whatever it takes, you know, throw yourself into the crowd, climb up a stack of speakers, whatever it is that will make the vibe go up like that, do that, you know. And I used to finish, I only used to really enjoy the gig when my head was bowed and we'd finished, and all I could hear was, and you think, yes, job done. Sending those people home happy. And one time we was in Newcastle in a students' union bar, and here comes this girl, oh my God, it's Maxi Jazz. I'm like, oh, hi. She says to me, I've seen your band 5 times this summer. I said, you what? 5 times? She said, yeah. I said, wait. I bought her a drink. I sat her down in the corner. I said, I need to know what it is about a group, any group, that would make you want to see them 5 times. I mean, I struggled to watch Stevie Wonder more than twice, once I knew the set, you know. She said, when I go to a Faithless concert, I feel fantastic. When I wake up in the morning, I still feel fantastic. All the next day, I feel fantastic. And the next morning I wake up, I still feel fantastic. You know, sometimes it lasts for 5 days, and I was like, whoa, imagine that. So that's one of the reasons I think that we lasted so long. It's because I was very clear on just, there was at least a section of the crowd that this meant the world to. And so therefore, why not keep doing it? You've got a platform, you can use your voice, you can tell them stuff. You know, I had one lyric that was really heartfelt. Not that they all weren't, they all were. But there was one lyric, I think it was on Tweak. And it was, welcome once again to the ceremony. Briefly, this is my testimony. I see genius in everybody. To perceive it in yourself is the difficulty. And you'd have people looking at you, right? Because their hearts are open. They're willing to take anything you give them. And here you are telling them, you're brilliant. You're brilliant. The only difference between me and you is like 10 foot of space or 20 yards or whatever it is. And they take that in a lot of the times. They think, oh, and you just hope that some of them would take that home, think about it, and maybe use it, because that's how it worked for me. I had people telling me, encouraging me when I was coming up. And basically that's all you need. You need encouragement. You need it every day though, mostly, but there you are.
Max, it's such a pleasure to talk to you.
Ah, thank you.
It's
something I do a lot.
This
talking
for hours. I'm aware of your time and things like that. I'll wrap it there and just say thank you so much, Max, for coming on
Absolute pleasure.
Vinyl.
And thank you for allowing me to play these great tunes.
Maxi Jazz, thank you very much for being on
Pleasure.
Vinyl.
Thank you very much, Chris.